I've worked as an armed security at a dispensary once. It was my first time working in security, and the idea of carrying a gun made me nervous. I never thought I'd end up working at an armed security job, but times were tough, and I needed the money. I stumbled upon an ad, and that's how I got the job. My first day on the job was nerve-wracking. I had never held a gun before, and the idea of being responsible for the safety of the dispensary's staff and customers made my stomach turn. However, my trainer was patient with me, and soon enough, I felt confident enough to carry the firearm. During the day, I spend my time checking IDs of individuals entering the building, making sure that everyone is authorized to be there. I follow a strict protocol that includes verifying the authenticity of the ID and ensuring that the person matches the photo on the card. At night, when the building is mostly empty, my focus shifts to monitoring the security cameras. I scan the feeds to detect any suspicious activity and ensure that the premises remain secure. I know that this is a crucial time, as it is often when criminals attempt to breach the security of the building. Throughout the first few weeks, everything seemed fine. I would greet customers as they came in, scan their IDs, and make small talk with them. The dispensary was always busy, and there was a steady stream of people coming and going. So one day around midnight as usual, I was keeping an eye on the security cameras, making sure everything was in order. Suddenly, I noticed a girl walking up to the front entrance. She looked to be in her early 20s and was bleeding from her head. I immediately rushed to the entrance to see if she was okay. She seemed disoriented and asked if we had a specific type of medicine. I quickly assessed her injuries and realized she needed immediate medical attention. I radioed for an ambulance while I escorted her to a chair. The girl was barely conscious, and I tried to keep her talking to keep her awake. She told me that she had been attacked by someone in an alley nearby. She needed a specific medication to control her blood pressure, which she said was a result of a pre-existing condition. I ran to the back to retrieve the medication, making sure to grab a first aid kit as well. When I returned, she was gone. I was stunned. How could she have left without me seeing her? I immediately checked the security cameras, but there was nothing on the footage. It was as if she had never been there. I searched the entire dispensary, but she was nowhere to be found. I was baffled. How could she have disappeared so quickly? I had only been gone for a few minutes. I was determined to figure out what the hell had happened to that girl. I contacted the police and reported the incident. They arrived shortly after, and I reviewed the security footage with the cops, but there was nothing on it. It was like she had vanished into thin air. I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened, and I tried to put the incident out of my mind and focus on my job, but it was impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her bleeding and disoriented, asking for help. The whole thing had me spooked, and the next night I saw something even crazier. There was this shadowy figure lurking around the entrance, disappearing into the darkness when I tried to approach it. I wasn't about to let this thing harm anyone else, so I called the cops again and we scoured the area. But we couldn't find a damn thing. The whole experience had me rattled. Eventually, I started hearing rumors about that girl wandering around, searching for her medication. And some folks even claimed they saw that shadowy figure hanging around the dispensary. I tried to tough it out, but I couldn't take it anymore. I resigned from that job and never looked back. It was just too damn creepy for my liking. But let me tell you, that experience taught me to always trust my gut and never let my guard down. You never know what kind of weird stuff is lurking in the shadows. Several years back, I've worked the night shift as a security guard at this rehab facility in Philly. The place has been shut down for years, and it's falling apart. As I can remember, the building was in a state of complete disrepair. The roof was covered in holes, and the walls were covered in cracks and peeling paint. The windows were dirty and some of them were broken, and the doors looked like they could fall off their hinges at any moment. The surrounding grounds were overgrown with weeds and bushes, making it difficult to walk around without tripping. The exterior of the building was littered with debris and garbage, and it was clear that no one had been there to maintain the property in a long time. Despite the eerie atmosphere and the state of disrepair, I used to remain focused on my task, so my job was to perform a security check on the abandoned property. I was tasked with walking around the perimeter, checking the doors and windows, and reporting any signs of suspicious activity to my supervisor. So, one day as usual I walked around checking the property. I kept my senses sharp and my focus on my task. I had to pay close attention to the condition of the doors and windows, looking for any signs of tampering or forced entry. I also had to keep an eye out for any unusual or suspicious activity, such as individuals loitering around the property or attempting to gain access. The first floor was relatively easy to navigate. There were a few rooms that had been left untouched, but for the most part, the furniture had been removed, and the place was barren. I checked the doors and windows, making sure everything is secure. The last thing I wanted was for someone to break in and cause trouble. As I made my way to the second floor, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The building was silent, but the feeling only intensifies as I ascended the staircase. When I reached the second floor, I found that things are a bit more complicated. Some of the rooms had been barricaded, and there were signs of forced entry. I radioed in to report my findings, and my supervisor told me to keep moving and to call the police if I encounter anything suspicious. I took a deep breath and continued my patrol. As I moved through the building, I heard strange noises coming from the walls. It sounded like scratching, like something was trying to claw its way out. My heart raced as I tried to pinpoint the source of the noise. I shined my flashlight towards the wall, but I couldn't see anything. I tried to brush it off and keep moving, but the feeling of unease only grew stronger. I could feel eyes on me, even though I knew there were no one there. I just didn't care much and I tried to stay focused on my task, but my mind kept wandering to the strange noises and the feeling of being watched. As I reached the third floor, which was in even worse shape than the rest of the building, the ceiling was caved in, and there were holes in the walls. The debris was piled high, making it difficult to move around. I was about to turn around and head back down when I heard a loud thud coming from one of the rooms. I froze, my heart was pounding in my chest. I cautiously made my way towards the room, my flashlight shaking in my hand. As I approached the door, I heard another thud, followed by a child laughter. My heart skipped a beat. I hesitated for a moment, and shined my flashlight towards the room where the sound had come from. The beam of light illuminated the dark room, revealing piles of debris and a broken chair, but there was no sign of any child. I called out, "Hello? Is anyone there?" But there was no response. I decided to investigate further, and cautiously made my way towards the broken chair. As I approached, I felt a sudden pull from my jacket behind me. I turned around, shining my flashlight in the direction of the pull, but there was no one there. And that was the moment I realized that I need to get out of that building immediately. The pull on my jacket had been unsettling, and the child's laughter had sent chills down my spine. I knew that I needed to get away from that place as soon as possible. I quickly made my way back down the stairs, taking care not to trip on any debris, and made my way back to the security office. I was still shaken up by what had happened, and I knew that I needed to take a few moments to collect myself. This was by far the creepiest experience I had ever had as a security guard, and it was clear to me that I needed to take some time to process what had happened. While I never experienced anything quite like that again, the memory of that night stayed with me, reminding me of the importance of being aware of my surroundings and taking my job as a security guard seriously. I've been working as a mall security officer for nearly a decade now, and let me tell you, I've seen some crazy stuff. From people stealing stuff left and right to customers getting all riled up, I've dealt with every kind of situation you can imagine. However, I do not want to mention my city or the mall that I've had this experience for my own security. Basically, my job is to make sure everyone who steps into the mall is safe and secure. I spend my days walking around, checking out the different stores, and keeping an eye out for anything sketchy. I work closely with the store managers to make sure we're all on the same page about any potential threats. When something does go down, I'm the first one on the scene. I've got to be calm, cool, and collected, and figure out what's going on ASAP. Sometimes I gotta call in backup, and other times I have to step in and handle things myself. The hardest part of the job is dealing with people who are all hot and bothered. Sometimes they get really aggressive, and I've got to use my training to calm them down and keep everyone safe. If things get really bad, I might have to use some force, but only if there's no other option and it's within the law. Over the years, I've developed a keen eye for spotting suspicious behavior. I know the ins and outs of the mall like the back of my hand, and I can tell when something's off just by taking a quick glance around. One time, I caught a group of teenagers trying to steal some merchandise from a store. They thought they were being sneaky, but I was onto them. I calmly approached them and asked to see what they had in their bags. They tried to deny it at first, but eventually gave in and handed over the stolen items. I called the police and they were taken into custody. Another time, there was a fire in one of the stores. I was the first one on the scene and quickly alerted the store manager and called the fire department. Thanks to my quick thinking and training, everyone was safely evacuated and the fire was put out before it could cause any serious damage. But to be honest, there are some incidents that to this day I don't have a proper explanations, which are straight from the supernatural as many would say. One of the experiences I've had was during a late night shift. As I was patrolling the mall, I suddenly caught a whiff of a strong, rotting smell. It was so overpowering that I thought there might be a dead animal somewhere nearby. But despite searching high and low, I couldn't find the source of the smell. It was so strange that it gave me chills down my spine. Another time, I heard the sound of glass breaking coming from one of the stores. I quickly rushed over, thinking that someone had broken in. But when I arrived, I found that all the windows and doors were still intact. It was a chilling experience, as if someone was trying to play tricks on me. And then there were the times when I would review the mall's CCTV footage and see dark figures moving around when the mall was closed. It was difficult to explain, but these figures looked like they were almost floating around, without any discernible shape or form. It was creepy, to say the least. One night during a midnight shift, I had a particularly chilling experience in the mall that I will never forget. I was patrolling the mall, making sure everything was secure and in order, when I heard a sound that made my blood run cold. It was a soft whisper, coming from somewhere nearby. At first, I thought it might be someone trying to hide or prank me, but when I shone my flashlight around the area, there was no one there. The whispering continued, growing louder and more insistent. It was as if someone or something was trying to communicate with me. As I continued to search for the source of the sound, I started to feel a strange presence around me like cold air. Then, suddenly I saw a hand grabbing the wall from the other side of the wall which leads a corridor way to a washroom area in the section. I suddenly rushed in to figure out whoever that was. As I rushed in the washroom area, surprisingly there was no one to be seen. I checked every stall and corner, but the washroom was empty. The sound that I had heard earlier was also gone, and there was no sign of anyone being there. Feeling a sense of unease, I made my way back out of the washroom thinking what was just happened. As I walked back to my office, my mind raced with thoughts and questions trying to process the weirdness of the situation. To this day I never experienced such a strange and eerie incident again, but the memory of that day stayed with me for a long time. It made me more aware of the unseen and unknown forces that exist around us, and the power of the human mind to sense them.